It has requested relief from the requirement for parking within the front setback. The revised preliminary site plan otherwise complies with the Sussex County Zoning Code. Tax parcel is District 335, Map 8, Parcel 37.02. The zoning is Z2, C2, Medium Commercial District, and staff are awaiting agency approvals. Should the Commission desire to act favorably on this preliminary plan, it is requested that final approvals be made subject to staff upon the receipt of all agency approvals.
So I believe there was a question I asked, I think at the last hearing for this, about whether or not the developer could actually meet the requirements. They would continue to, pursue the development if they were not granted the waiver for the parking setback that they're asking for as part of this. And I think that they said that they could actually meet those requirements. They weren't granted the waiver. Is that what
I don't think that's the case. No, I think the situation is that, based on my review of this, is that, first of all, this is a preliminary site plan approval, so it hasn't really formally been to DelDOT yet. DelDOT's going to have an opportunity to review it, and it'll come back to the Commission for final site plan review. They might have been able to meet the setback requirements before DelDOT extracted additional land from them along Kings Highway. The way I read the information was that originally there was a 20-foot dedication, which is the manual required dedication for something like this. But because the widening is all occurring on the eastern side of Kings Highway and not the Cape Henlopen School District side, DelDOT asked the property owner to reserve an additional 30 feet of right-of-way and then another 15 feet for a permanent easement. If you look on the site plan, both of those are already conveyed by the landowner to the Department of Transportation. So they own or have easement rights in all of that. So I don't think that it's accurate to say that they could meet the setbacks now. They might have been before DelDOT extracted an extra 45 feet plus the 20 feet. But I would say keep in mind that all this is going to shake out when DelDOT takes a final look at the site plan and everything else before final.
Danny, can you pull that up on like Google Earth?
The other thing I would say, too, just because I know this was an issue, I went back and looked at the adjacent property, because that's what the Commission typically looks at, what's happening on nearby properties. And what's proposed on this preliminary site plan lines up with the interconnectivity and the parking on the adjacent site plan that's currently built. That's one thing. I would also point out that it's essentially the same configuration of parking and the interconnectivity and the building that was shown for information purposes, granted, at the time that this went through for its rezoning and got approved to C2 back in, a couple years ago. So it's always been shown like this, and I'm not trying to make a case for anything. I'm just saying these are the kinds of things that the Commission's looked at, that it lines up with the adjacent parking, which is frankly what you guys always look at. Are we setting a precedent or not? And in this case, at least next door, it doesn't look like you would be.
That was going to be my question. Are we going to be setting a precedent all the way down this road?
Yeah, I think there's a few other developments that may be pending that will be looking to this as a precedent that they would want us also to follow.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think that ship sailed, frankly. Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any other questions for this one.
Okay, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I would like to move that we deny this site plan based on the parking exception that's been requested for the parking to exist in the setback.
All right, Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Mr. Collins, it appears that your motion dies for lack of a second.
It does. Thank you.
Does anyone else like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve Site Plan 23-34 Mitchell Farm Commercial for the revised preliminary site plan.
Just one question, since there has been this issue brought up, do you want it to be approved by staff upon a
Yes.
seat? Okay, all right.
Approved by staff after agency approvals.
A second.
It's moved and seconded to approve site plan S23-34 Mitchell Farm Commercial revised preliminary site plan as a preliminary with final approval to be by the staff, subject to receipt of all other agency approvals. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Okay, our next item is site plan